All right, hello, Hacksters. Happy Tuesday. It is my favorite day of the week. We have a Hackster Cafe interview with someone doing awesome stuff in hardware. Today's guest is Ayesha Iftiqhar-Wilson, who has been making amazing, gorgeous art PCBs. And you're also working on electric RVs that are made in the US. And also, there's so much stuff that I put in the description, but it's hard to even keep track of. You're a princess with power tools. You're all these different things, and I'd love to dig into it. So, good morning,
Yeah,
Aisha. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here.
And thank you all for
Happy
joining
New
us. I'm so stoked. So, let's get started. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in hardware and then maybe your favorite project? Let's start with the first project because we got that.
Okay. I had kind of a traditional path into engineering, but also not really. I grew up in India, and I learned about Kalpana Chawla, who was like the first astronaut, Indian woman astronaut to go into space. And I thought that was really cool. And I got really into space because of her, because I was like, oh, that's someone who looks like me, and I want to do something that's related to STEM and go into space. And when I was reading up, I learned about ham radios, which apparently astronauts, you can be on Earth and talk to astronauts using ham radios. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
in middle school. So I started reading about ham radios, and that had a lot of electronics in it. I never got my license, but I started reading up a little bit about it, and that really got me interested. And I wanted to go to school for electrical engineering because of that. And I went to school and I have an electrical engineering degree. And then I moved to the US to get my master's degree. And then a lot of imposter syndrome
Mhm.
while I was in school and when I started working. And that's when I started tinkering outside of work to build up my skills some more and teach myself how to do PCBs and just build things on my own.
Yeah, so your first project you were showing me is this
Mhm.
electronic social distancing emoji mask. I am a
Yeah.
huge fan of smashing words together when you're naming projects, so this makes me very happy. Could you tell us about this?
Yeah, so this was 2020 when COVID was like rising and everyone was social distancing and at home. And like everyone else, I had a lot of anxiety and not really sure what 6 feet was. So this was more of an effort for me to how far is 6 feet actually? Let's put it on a
Mm.
mask. And I think I was listening to something where someone was like, this is gonna socially mess with our head because we can't see people's emotions. So I was like, well, we can fix that. Let's just turn ourselves into emojis because we love emojis. So it's just ultrasonic sensor, and I think it has a Flora board and a bunch of neopixels kind of soldered on there because I don't know how to stitch. And it changes like the emotions based on how fire someone is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wrote Flora here. Uh, what was it like working with NeoPixels for the first time?
That was so fun because I think I love LEDs as it is, but changing colors was really cool. But I wish I knew how to stitch because that looks like a mess. They're just hot glued and soldered together.
I mean, if it works, it works.
Mhm.
Did you put any kind of shielding on the inside?
I don't think so. It was very hacky, like middle of the night at 11 p.m. Like, let me just make something kind of a project. And this was my first project, so I didn't even know what I was trying to do.
Well, I feel like a lot of my first projects were just like mimicking something that someone else did, and like trying to make it my own. And so you're straight up just creating and soldering and programming your own thing. Obviously, you have a degree in that, and it's super cool. But like, yeah, I don't know. Your first project is, I think, amazing.
Thank
And
you.
then you moved on to doing this beautiful bookmark.
Yeah, this again was because I read in bed and I'm lazy, so I don't want to get up and turn off the light when I'm in bed. So I was like, it'll be cool if I can just like turn my bookmark into a light. And I was just like playing around with my bookmark, and I was like, I wonder if I can just turn this into a PCB. And I just cut it up and made it foldable, and put copper tape and just tried to stick the LEDs, but I think they didn't make good connections. I soldered them and then I have a magnet on the back of that little flap. So it just
Ah.
sticks on top of the battery and makes the circuit.
That's so smart. Oh, yeah, it's like it's just straight up sticking to the battery. Oh, man.
Yeah, yeah, because it's metal, so it just makes the loop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Huh. So you've worked with conductive tape, you've worked with soldering wire. Have you ever strayed into conductive thread at all, or is it mostly?
I want to. That's my next project because I just got
Ooh,
a sewing machine as well, and I'm like I really want to make more wearables. So I'm trying to learn to do a stitch, and I learned about Sue IY, I think they're called. Um, Knit to code. Senya told me about it because you can solder the ends of that wire, and then you can stitch, and it's a lot more flexible than some of the other
ooh,
uh, um, conductive threads. So I really want to play with that, and it's
nice.
insulated, which is awesome.
Stenciling?
No, sorry, the wire,
Mhm.
the thread, it's insulated,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you just strip off the ends and you can solder it and you can stitch with the rest of it.
Oh, I've never seen that. Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's called Sew IY, SEW.IY, I think.
Cool. Um, I've tended to use a lot of silicone coated wire because it's like it's got that deep flexibleness that you need for wearable things to be comfortable. But I'm getting
Mhm.
ahead of myself here with the with the computer. But yeah, having something that you can actually stitch sounds amazing. Have you seen the glow stitch LEDs?
Yeah, yeah, Steph by Brace. I have a sample somewhere. I made a
Cool.
shoe light up thing with it.
Ooh, I would love to
They're
see
so
that.
pretty.
Maybe
Yeah.
the next time. So you're coming to SuperCon, is that right?
Yeah. I know
Are
you're
you
gonna
doing a
be there.
talk? Do you know?
No, I'm not doing a talk. I used up all my energy in Open Hardware Summit when I gave my talk, and I was like dead inside after that for the rest of the summit. So I'm excited to just go and like meet people and talk to people.
Same, I will just be running around with a camera, but I'm excited to hang out with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, speaking of Open Hardware Summit, you did this amazing talk, and that was the first time I saw like your crown PCB, which is so cool. And what does it say on
Thank
here?
you.
Have courage
It
and be
says
kind.
have. I don't know, can you see? It says have courage and be kind, which in the story in Cinderella's story, because I'm supposed to be Cinderella. That's the message that I liked a lot about
Ah.
it. And then I have like details of the story, the pumpkin, the mice, and the birds.
Oh, I never got that.
And then
Yeah,
it
look at the
says,
little mice
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, lights up.
That is awesome.
And I
Is
love
this
blue LEDs. That's my favorite. Blue LEDs are my favorite.
well, oh, I missed you showing it off in
Oh,
person.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah, I can't complain about blue LEDs, that's definitely my favorite as well. I also love that you put power switches on them, which for me is like an essential element of wearables, is just being able to
Yeah,
turn it off and save battery.
yeah.
Was this
Oh.
related to sorry?
No, I was gonna say I don't like getting a lot of attention to myself. So like whenever was looking at me when things are turned on, so I also wanna hide.
Legit. But I feel like, you know, sometimes it helps to have something like that that's like a focal point for starting conversations and like the
Mhm.
object or the project is the focus of the attention, and it lets you have like these conversations without like being on the spot or having to sell yourself. It kind of like just
Yeah,
shows who you are. I don't know. But
no, I agree.
you also have this, speaking of Cinderella, you're not wearing it in this photo, but you are putting it together and you're wearing this your butterfly
Yeah, I have
PCBs,
that.
which we'll get to. So what's
Mhm.
this? Could you tell us about it?
Sorry, what's that?
Sorry, what's the context in which, this is
Oh,
happening? Why are you in a dress? Why
yeah. Reinvented Magazine is awesome. I think Kelly Looney was on the Hackster Cafe.
She
Um,
was?
yeah, we love Kelly. Um, so they have actually it's in the background, right? They make a calendar called Princesses with Power Tools, where they feature 12 femme and them people in STEM, showing off their different careers, and they do a really good job of finding people from different backgrounds and different STEM careers, and they dress up as princesses because and they show off their career because there's that mindset of like you can be one or the other. Like you can be a princess or an engineer, and usually feminine qualities are kind of dismissed in engineering. So I like that they try to show that you can be both. You can be feminine, you can be a princess, you can dress up to work, but also do like these really hardcore technical uh, things. It's not just one or the other. So that's what I like.
Yeah.
Oh, and my
I
favorite part is that they donate all the calendars to different schools around the US. So a bunch of kids get to see it.
Yeah. They do this with, I think their magazine issues as well. It's so cool. You can, like,
Hmm.
get one and give one at the same time. Uh, we did have Kaylee on here a while ago, and I, got surprised by, Pat Dooley putting in the comments here those So IY LEDs,
Mm.
which we can also put the link for that in the description. Thanks for sharing that. I had never seen this before. That is so cool.
Yes, Sanya told me about it, Net to Code on Instagram. It's
Ah, cool.
yeah.
Anyway, so Princesses with Power Tools is a calendar. Do you know how people get their hands on this calendar?
You can buy them. I think in their shop tab on the top.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can buy them, and you can, if you don't want to buy the physical one, you can just get the electronic version, and you can also donate it to schools.
Cool. Oh, this is
Yeah.
so rad. Um, I did see the Barbie movie, and one thing that frustrated me about it was that when the women became, uh, like, more empowered, they had to cast off their sort of stereotypically
Mhm.
feminine, aspects, and that's something that we
Yeah.
see a lot, and I kind of love that this, is like, you don't have to choose, like you're saying.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is so
Yeah, I've
rad.
wear dresses to work, so I like all flowery and pretty things. So
Awesome. And could you tell us a bit about your work? Because you've done a bunch of different cool things, but especially right now, what you're doing, I think, is really, really cool.
yeah, I've been super fortunate to find opportunities to work in clean tech, which I'm really passionate about sustainability and just electrifying uh, things that are usually gas powered. So my latest project, it's at a startup called Lightship, and it's an electric RV. So it's all electric. It has solar panels on the top, and then it has a battery bank at the bottom, and it's really cool. So that's the drive mode of the RV. So it's lower, almost at the level of the truck. So it's more aerodynamic. But it, when you camp, it goes up. I don't know if there's a picture of that, but it rises up and it looks a lot taller,
Uh-huh.
and it has like these giant windows. So if you're inside, like you're part of nature, which I love hiking and being out in the mountains. So you don't feel like you're disconnected from it. You're still part of it, and it's actually very advanced. It's basically a smart home where everything's connected. There's a tab where you can turn on the lights and do all these smart things, and you can like conserve battery by knowing what your consumption is. So you can go off grid longer, and you can use any standard EV chargers to charge the vehicle as well.
Do you think people will be using these to live in as well? Because with the whole van life thing?
I hope so. It's very beautiful inside. I would live in it if I get a hand on it, because there's a lot of space to just sleep in, and there's a kitchen and all that. So it's super livable.
Oh, wow. So
Has a
many
nice
actual.
work desk. Yeah.
Ah! I always have this issue with van life where I would love to do it, but also like the idea of having a hardware studio on the road seems really difficult. Like for one thing, I guess hacker spaces can help with that, but like if you were gonna live in one of these, what
Yeah.
are the like how would you outfit it? Because like it might be hard to get like a 3D printer and laser cutter or whatever you're
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I've been thinking of too. I would have the same problem because I need all this with me, which is
Mhm.
gonna be hard. So I don't know. I'm imagining a lot of pegboards, but it's so beautiful that you also don't want to mess it up, the inside of the IV. But I would definitely want my soldering iron, and even if not a 3D printer, I definitely need like soldering equipment and
Absolutely.
stuff to build my electronics.
The nice thing about PCBs, I guess, is that you don't have to fabricate them all at home. You can sort of send out for someone else to fabricate them. I'm curious, which
Mhm.
fab house do you prefer? Have you tried different ones? Have you mostly stuck with one?
I mostly use JLC PCB for all of mine. I've used I haven't used PCBware, but I've used all PCB because they do assembly and they do like everything.
Mm.
I love JLC PCB though; they're so cheap and fast.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of different options for colors and stuff too.
Hmm.
I've checked them out for previous projects, and I
And now they
think
have Flex PCBs, which I've never made.
do you have an idea for what you would build with it?
Oh, so many wearable opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've stuck PCBs on my dresses and they're not the most comfortable thing. So I think
Mm,
having like a little more flex PCBs on there might make it a little easier to move and sit, maybe.
yeah. So actually, yeah, going back to speaking of sticking PCBs on your dress, that brings me back to the Princesses with Power Tools um, calendar. And let me see if I can find it again. Yeah. So you've got your butterflies stuck to your dress on this
Mhm.
one. I'm still curious about this crown a little more. So, do you have like a central power source? Do you have to be concerned about how many LEDs versus how many batteries you have? And is there one, power switch that controls the whole thing? What can you tell us about this?
No, I made them individual because my idea was to build the crown, but I wanted to break it up and like give it to different people, mostly women that
Oh!
I admire. Because so I kind of kept it separate. So they each have like a single battery and like a single switch. So it's its own thing. But
Mm.
like I just have like a strip here to solder things together.
Oh, smart. So they're not actually electrical connected, it's just like a
Yeah.
structural thing. Cool. Well, that's definitely sort of the smart way to do it, so if one part breaks, then the whole thing doesn't go down, which is
Yeah.
always a consideration with, like, live events and stuff. Did you have any mishaps at Open Hardware Summit?
I didn't surprisingly. I had maybe we'll get to it later, but I had my flower PCB that I
Mhm.
bunched up and I put it in my pocket because I was like a pocket full of PCB flowers. But I did it fall and I don't know where it ended up. I didn't find them. It fell out of my pocket, but I think that was the only mishap I had.
Well, I do love this, you I think gave out a couple of these ones at Open Hardware
Yeah.
Summit, so I got your flower one. I love this structure here, by the way. It seems so I'm like, I haven't popped it out yet, but I know it's gonna be so
Mhm.
satisfying when I do it. And then your wonderful butterfly, which
Yeah.
this is actually a project that you and your friend Alexandra Kovor, who we've also had on the show, have
Hmm.
both done that different butterflies, and this is
Hmm.
just I'm such a sucker for blue. It's gorgeous.
I know. Yeah,
That's cool.
we took a picture together with the butterflies too. I love that we both have our butterflies.
Yeah, and you shared yours on Hackster, I think. Oh, wait, not the butterfly, but the
Mhm.
flower.
Yeah,
So,
it should.
Ayesha has a Hackster profile, which is linked in the description, along with a bunch of the other links that we're looking at today. So if you're curious about something, go check that out, and including the lily-shaped PCB. Could you tell us why you chose lilies?
They just look so pretty. I was looking at pictures of different flowers, and lilies actually have that effect where they're white in the center and they have like a little bit of color, like pigment at the edge. So I wanted to mimic that.
Ah.
Um, I don't know if like you've seen one, but I was like trying to mimic that specifically, like the little shading at the end. I thought that would be pretty. And I wanted to make it like holdable so you can just like hold it.
Mm.
Yeah, that make me smile.
I feel like it That's the best reason to make a thing. Although I
Yeah.
also love your hoodie, like, you were talking about being very motivated around clean
Yeah.
tech and yeah, building the world we wanna see. Yeah. So, how would you suggest that someone deploy this lily? Is it like I feel like I wanna put it in, like, a lapel, like a buttonhole,
Mhm.
but like you said, you could hold it as well.
Yeah, I put mine in my pocket, but yeah, lapel
Mm.
would be cool. Um, I forget who did this because I gave some away. Someone put a magnet and just made it like a pin, and we're wearing it like on
Oh,
a
yeah, legit.
dress. Yeah,
Now
yeah, I
that's
think
one that
I'll
has
get
some
there.
green on it, is that right?
I just it's just marker.
Oh, yeah, they're def you could totally color this in with any, like,
Yeah,
Sharpie. I love that
yeah.
actually.
It
Oh,
doesn't have to
man.
be white either. You can add like shading in the center.
You've made coloring book PCBs. This is
Yeah,
awesome. Oh, I just noticed that there's this little text on here that says, "I can buy myself flowers. I can
yeah.
buy myself flowers."
Yeah, I was
Is that
listening to that song, and that's also what inspired me to make these because I was actually teaching a workshop on programming, microcontroller programming, MicroPython actually. But I thought it would be cool to give all the kids that are attending it a flower because it was around Valentine's Day, so they can make themselves flowers for Valentine's Day.
rad? Uh, are you gonna make a PCB about writing your name in the sand? Throwaway joke. No, sorry. Thank
So
you for
now you
tolerating me.
now you got me thinking though. Can we?
So I also love, I'm a huge sucker for practical PCBs that are
Mhm.
gorgeous and also useful, and this just hits all those spots for me. Your wearable wire gauge earrings, and you did two different versions. There's a sort of like
Mhm.
Fibonacci spiral over here, and then you've got this rectangular one. You've mixed it up with charms and stuff. Oh, they're so cool.
That's
What inspired you to make these? Were you like doing some particular project and you were like, what if I had this? Or was it
yeah.
more of a like, what if I need this in the future?
I use my the DigiKey ruler all the time, and
Mhm.
the only thing or the thing I use the most, more than anything else, is the wire gauge hole. And
Mm,
so I have to carry this around everywhere.
classic.
Um, and back before the job, before Lightship, I worked at agriculture robotics company, and I
Mhm.
used to be farm a lot, strawberry farm, and I used to carry my ruler around when I was trying to debug something. But I thought it would
Oh.
just be easier to just have something that's wearable that I could just like pop off and try out. It's also
Yeah.
inspired. Very good.
What was it?
It was also kind of inspired by Nancy Drew because I read a lot of Nancy Drew growing up, where Nancy Drew just like take stuff off and like just open a lock or whatever. So I thought that would be.
Oh yeah. I never read a lot of Nancy Drew, but yeah, it sounds like she's kind of like a MacGyver slash James Bond kind of type.
Hmm.
Like you were saying, you are currently at Lightship, and then previously you were at Tortuga Ag Tech, which I love. Um, oh, could you tell us a little bit about your robotics experience? Like, have you worked on other robots, and what's your favorite part of robotics?
Yeah, no, this was my only robotics project. So this was strawberry harvesting robot, and I worked
Mhm.
on a bunch of different circuit boards on there. So there was motor drives, bunch of motor drives actually, and like there's a battery system and a whole lot of sensors on there to help it move. So it's autonomous, and it just like you drive it up to the grow, like it's in a row, and it just goes around scanning for ripe strawberries and picks it. But it also does other things. It had a UV disinfecting bulb on
Mm.
it, so you can disinfect the plants with UV instead of chemical pesticides, which was really cool. And it picks the strawberries and like collects it. So that was really cool. And I didn't like grow up with first robotics, so I wasn't really exposed to robotics a lot.
Mhm.
I just generally like electronics, so this was really cool to have this huge thing drive around and do things.
Yeah. So how do they sense whether the strawberries are ripe or not?
Yeah, they have cameras in their arms, so they do like a scan and see what the strawberry grow looks like, and then find the ones. So there's machine learning on there. We have really amazing machine learning engineers there, so they wrote models to kind of find the ripe strawberries. And there's so many classifications for the strawberries. I learned so much about strawberries working there because there's like a threshold that they need to be a certain size and shape and like a certain amount of red for it to be pluckable. And you also kind of have to make sure you don't cut the flowers or other
Mm.
strawberries that are ripening because that could be fruit.
Mm.
So yeah, they do all that cool machine learning in the background.
Oh yeah. Did you get to work on that part?
I didn't get to do any machine learning. I didn't do a lot of software while I worked there. A little bit of firmware, but not like higher level software.
What was your favorite part of the robot to work on specifically?
The batteries were cool.
Ah! What do you
So
like
like
about it?
it's just like kind of scary because it's like a giant bomb basically. So when it works, it's very satisfying that I didn't kill myself. Nothing.
Talk about job satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this, what is it? There's I think it's around like bomb disposal. It's like either you're right or it's very quickly not your problem anymore. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. Um, you're also doing some volunteering as well, but I also, I actually want to ask some more about your
Mhm.
Tortuga experience because this is so cool. Um,
Yeah.
what are some of the challenges of building an agriculture robot specifically?
Mhm.
Like like some it's gonna be out in the world. What kind of an environment were you in? It was like, was it exposed fields? Was it inside of greenhouses?
So we did both. We had farms in the UK that weren't exposed; they were more in greenhouses. I haven't been to those farms, but the farms that I went to were in California, which were more muddy. So the
Mm,
terrain, like driving in those difficult terrains, was different, like a little hard. And then it's just uneven surfaces, and the grows are so specific that it has to work with that. And
mm.
just finding like the strawberries, going after the right strawberry and picking them fast enough, and just making sure you don't destroy the other crops. That was challenging.
Wow. And for the UV
Oh,
sterilization, oh, go on.
mhm. And I just remember things after I speak sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of infrastructure in farms, so they don't have generators or like to charge the robot, so
Mm.
just figuring those things out. And because you want to upload all the data to the cloud too by the end of the day, so finding internet, like those kind of challenges are actually really
Yeah, I think that's part
things.
of the
Yeah.
whole, current rush toward cellular IoT, but it's not
Mhm.
always feasible, definitely depending on where you are. But yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely see that happening a little bit more lately with the all the 5G tech and just cellular tech in general.
Mhm.
The UV stuff is also fascinating to me. I love that they were doing that instead of using pesticides as much. Would that
Mhm.
happen internally in the robot, or did they like was it like an external wand thing or?
No, it's kind of like at the edges of the robot.
Oh.
So the robot's kind of like a golf cart
Mhm.
that drives around, and then like kind of on the edges, we just put UV bulbs because it's driving around anyway, so it's
Right.
easy to just like dose it. Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't pull this up beforehand, but yeah, here's the cool arm doing it thing.
Yeah,
Whoa! That's so
it's
rad.
really cool.
It
And
almost looks
I'm
like a 3D printer on a cart, but it's like the opposite.
it's the most satisfying thing to watch too, because when I went there, like we start the day pretty early. We're almost there before sunrise, and the robots are doing its thing. So, kind of watching these robots go up and pick strawberries before sunrise was kind of magical and futuristic.
Yeah, so I watched, the Picard show a while back, and they had these drones that were harvesting grapes, and I always thought that that was pretty inefficient, like, it doesn't make a
Mhm.
ton of sense unless you're somehow, like, delivering energy to them over the air, which, like, I feel like something like this makes a ton more sense.
Mhm.
They're so cute. Okay, so I promise that, I'm also really fascinated by your art PCBs, but this is just so interesting, and you
Yeah,
have
it's
this
all
depth
cool.
of knowledge. Does,
Oh, thank you.
absolutely, have you found that there's any particular overlap between what you were doing in, like, for example, do you find that you think about the power delivery in your crown or other projects more, or do you think you have a special perspective on that because of your experience with this?
Yeah, I guess just picking out parts and stuff sometimes. I know some of these PCBs have been simpler, but when
Mm,
I'm trying to design something a little more complicated, just picking out parts and like voltage converters or microcontrollers, that's always those skills overlap. And just I'll do more complex PCBs at work, so trying
mm,
to just be cleaner with my PCB design, that helps. And there's some
mm.
things that I don't get to do at my work PCBs. Like I don't get to play with LEDs or um, have solder mask exposed to make LEDs glow, make
Mm.
fun shapes. So I kind of get to do that in these art PCBs, which is fun.
Awesome. We have a question from a viewer who Marco asks, "Do you use KiCad too, or what's your CAD tool of choice for PCBs?
Yeah, I've used Altium mostly because that's what I learned using, but
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
one of my goals to switch all my designs to KiCad because I know Altium's not cheap and I want people to be able to see my design and edit them too. So definitely want to switch to KiCad. KiCad's
Yeah,
awesome.
it makes sense though if you're like, that's what your company has given you, and it's an incredibly powerful piece of software. But yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely for making it sort of more open source. And we've got open source month coming up from
Yeah.
Open Hardware or from OSHWA, the Open Source Hardware Association. And neither of us has ever done a fully OSHWA certified PCB before, but you've talked about how you're interested in doing one of these in the future.
Mhm.
Do you think you'll start with a project that you've already done and tweak it to make it certifiable, or is there something up your sleeve that you're excited to have it be open source from
Ye-
the start?
I dropped my key. I have a skate PCB that I made, and which
Yes.
it mounts on below my skate, so it gives like an underglow, but it has a bunch of sensors, so I can wanted to monitor like my movements. There are a bunch of things that didn't work exactly. Yeah, that's the one. So I don't know. I haven't had time to test it out properly, but I don't think my boost converter. That's kind of you to that area.
Mm.
I don't either. I didn't solder it right, or it's not working because I wasn't getting power as well as I wanted to. But I want to, and I couldn't find the Arduino Nano boards when I blew one up.
Ugh,
It took a while, so I think I'm gonna turn that into an IP2040 project, and that I wanna and put a bunch of sensors on there that are just not on the development board.
I
So
love
that.
these little slogans you've put on here. Don't be a hater, be a roller skater. Skating brings good vibes. And if people haven't seen Ayesha's Instagram yet, you should go check it out because not only are there awesome, gorgeous PCBs like this, but also these really cool videos of you like bombing through uh I don't know the lingo, but like doing the bowls and these cool spins and stuff.
This one's a lot gentler. There's a lot of like falling videos too, which are more hilarious.
Badass.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of skating on the flat, but never even attempted like a slope. So this is so cool.
That was
Um,
scary.
so I can't wait to see these with light up LEDs on the bottom.
Hmm.
So cool. Yeah, tell us about your butterfly PCB if you would,
Yeah.
and then I'd love
Yeah,
to ask about Sparkletronics because yeah,
mhm. Yeah, it's this one. That was for the Princess with Power Tools for my Cinderella costume because Cinderella's dress has like a bunch of butterflies on it, so I wanted to make
Mm.
butterfly PCBs to put on there because our Cinderella is an electrical engineer, so my whole idea was that because I think in the story she makes her own costumes, and I don't know how to stitch, but I know how to make PCBs, so I thought I'll make the little embellishments for the dress instead.
Mm, makes sense. We have a comment from Ryan who says, "Loving the talk so far. Somebody who follows you from Instagram has joined us. Hooray!"
Hey. Hey,
um,
Ryan.
Yeah, let's take a look at a couple of these comments. The sewable LEDs look useful and make light up bow ties, and these would be great for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've seen a few different LED bow ties, and I think it's really cool when everyone puts their own spin on it. Just like you and Alexandra with the different butterflies and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like a collection is in order. And then also try to this is when we were talking about the van life thing, like try to battery powered soldering iron on the go. Do not recommend lol. Although I think that depends on
Hmm.
the battery powered soldering iron, you know. So like for example, there's this pine sil
Yeah, that's
one
what I
that
was gonna say.
I should let you actually do the talking. Yeah.
No, no, no,
Tell
you're
us about,
fine, you're
have you
fine.
ever tried it?
Yeah, yeah, that's so good.
Mm,
And they
I
work with hacker tips. I don't know if you knew that. If you have a hacker soldering iron, you can use the tips on pencil too.
what?
Yeah, yeah, and you can 3D print a little holder for it, so it's not as long and exposed. Yeah, that's my favorite part because I have hacker a soldering iron and I wanted a portable one, and I like that they're interchangeable.
Oh yeah. it looks like there's a bunch of different 3D printed cases. Oh, this is dangerous. So have you done much 3D printing?
Yeah, I've printed. I have a 3D printer, and I've printed other people's design, and I'm learning to 3D model right now. What software am I learning? The one that's free and online that I'm blanking on. Onshape.
Onshape?
Yeah,
Yeah, oh,
yeah.
I love Onshape. What's the experience been for you so far? Like,
I,
things that were easy to pick up, things that were more
mhm.
challenging?
It's been super easy to pick up so far. It's more intuitive because I think I tried to learn Blender at some point and it just like did not, it didn't make sense to me.
Hmm.
But this is a lot more intuitive. I'm just following along videos and I made like a little vase thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. But I want to make like enclosures for my PCBs.
Absolutely, yeah, I can't wait to see more of, like, an interaction between I bet you would do some really cool stuff too. Just
I
like,
hope so.
are there other creators whose work inspires you? Who do you follow?
Yeah, I love Alexandra. She's my butterfly PCB friend. I love your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Becky Stern, all of her work's always inspiring. Steph Piper has like the most beautiful PCBs. Just so
Yeah,
many. Yeah.
we had her on the show a while ago. Steph Piper has been doing these really cool I don't know if I'll be able to pull them up here, immediately, but, she's been doing these, like, what would you call them? A little, skill trees, I guess, where you can fill in,
Hmm.
like, for PCB design, for microcontrollers, etcetera, the different stuff, but let's look
Yeah.
at some more about things that you're doing. So, let's talk about Sparkletronics.
Yeah.
What's going on with this?
Sparkletronics right now is an experiment in my head that I make PCBs or like I make projects and I get excited, I make them. I don't do the best job documenting them or sharing them
Legit.
a little more. So this is more discipline for me to document it and also make it available for if anyone wants to use them. And I want to turn some of my circuit boards like this, for example, this rocket into a soldering kit because
That
I
is so
think that's
cool!
a yeah. So I want to make soldering kits. I want to make a little more educational content, be more disciplined about my documentation, and just make more things available so people can use. And I make a lot of stuff for people, Alexandra, like that are for workshops. So I think this will make it easier for me to work with other um, companies who I'm trying to hold workshops so I can provide them the things that they need.
Nice. Yeah, there's a huge, interest, I think, right now in, PCB kits, things that people can assemble for themselves, especially with the instructions. And is there anything that you think you'll call out when you're, telling people how to assemble PCBs? Because I feel like there's always, like, something that people get caught up on.
Do you mean like
Like, when
a
they're
tip?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What would be your tip for someone putting together, a PCB kit for the first time?
Oh yeah, a lot of people who start soldering for the first time, which I did too. I think we think of it as painting, where we heat up the soldering iron and
Oh,
the solder and like apply this melted solder versus the right way to do it is to heat up the pad and the thing that you're trying to connect. So it that heats and then you flow the solder on top because it's
yeah.
all about trying to the solder has a higher or a lower melting point than the other metals. So that's what you're trying to heat up the metal and then flow the solder because it's gonna melt faster and it's gonna flow a lot smoother.
Yeah, and as Pat
And
mentioned,
flux.
"Flux is your friend."
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
also you gotta clean off flux.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually yeah, for aesthetically beautiful PCBs, like, when you're doing something that's just functional, it's definitely always, like, a no-brainer, but, like, yeah, I've made some of my PCBs and just ended up with this, like, grimy sheen on it, and, like, I think I just need to get better with the, like, IPA or the, acetone or
Mhm.
whatever I'm using, but, oh, yeah, it's a whole thing. G Pro one says, "Something neat for Sparkletronics would be an intro to PCB design."
Oh,
Ooh,
that would be
be
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, clearly people are excited about Sparkletronics. You've
Yeah.
also got this Pikachu charger, which we haven't
Mhm.
talked about yet. And you mentioned earlier about how at your job you don't get to just remove solder mask for aesthetics so you can see LEDs come through. But this is so cool. Did you draw on this one as well, or is that all like
Yeah, it has a black marker on it.
nice?
Because they don't I couldn't find yellow solder mask with black ink
Mm.
combination. Like I'm just gonna draw on it.
I've thought about creating my own cool looking chargers before, but tell us about this. So, what were you using the batteries for, and how did you settle on Pikachu?
Yeah. So I want to try to move away from the single-use batteries as much as possible. So
Mm.
that's why I want to do more lipo batteries. And I don't always have the option to add the battery charger on the circuit itself. So I thought I'll make like a little charger friend that I can carry around with me if the battery runs out. And I love Pikachu. I love Pokemon so much, and I always wanted a Pikachu to charge something for me. So I was like, I'll make my own Pikachu, and it makes sense that it'll charge a
Yeah,
battery.
it makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, we have a tip from Pat Dooley about the
Oh
flux
yeah.
thing. Apparently, Sonic cleaners are amazing cleanup. Ooh, I still feel like I would do something wrong, but like, yeah, that's what experimentation is about. And I feel like
Yeah.
Pikachu is a great embodiment for uh, hardware hacking because, like, it can be positive, it can be destructive, however you
Mhm.
choose to use electricity.
I like that you
And
added. It can be destructive too.
I do admire that you're working on moving away from single-use power sources. Same here. And yeah. Have you ever seen The Jewel Thief? I feel like this is a really good platform for people to experiment with PCB design.
I think I've seen your design that has the jewel thief, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love it. But anyway, back to you. Tell us about so you did ag tech robots, and then you've done you're working on these electric RVs.
Mhm.
In both of those, there's this concern around durability. Do you have any durability tips for people building robots that'll be exposed to the elements?
Mm. So one of the things that I'm learning right now is, especially for electronics, there are actually quite good standards for automotive parts. Just they have like a wider temperature range. They're more tested for
Mm.
vibration already. So when looking for parts, if it says AEQ 200 or AEQ 100 parts, that means that they're qualified for automotive. Which means they
Huh.
have like a wider temperature range and vibration rating. They've gone through those tests, so that's helpful for durability.
That feels like
Um,
something that would be useful for wearables as well.
yeah, for sure, because you're like exposing them to all the elements. Um, One thing that I've learned, like working on products, which I try to bring back to um, some of my hobby electronics. I don't know if you've heard of derating components.
Mm,
Um,
no.
Yeah, so derating is like if for a capacitor, for example, say it's only gonna see 3 volts, you want to make sure that your capacitor is designed for 2 to 3 times of that voltage. So uh,
Ah,
yeah, it's designed for like a wider range, so it extends the lifetime of your component that way.
that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the kind of thing that you get when you've done a whole EE degree and a master's, and you're like, I actually know about electronics deeply. Is there anything else that you feel like people who didn't go through like academia in this field maybe aren't aware of, and maybe we should be more?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think this is through academia because I didn't learn
Hmm.
any of this in school. It's more
Oh, legit.
designing products and like doing all the rigorous testing that goes into selling products versus designing some of the things that I do at home that I'm not really selling. But
Right.
yeah, so we do more testing. Trying to think what else. Just like EMI and EMC, which for something that's just turning on LEDs isn't really a problem. But if you have anything that's like high speed communication that's going on in your PCBs, you do things like match USB trace, for example. there's the positive and the negative trace for the USB data line, and you try to match the length and match the impedance. You keep them parallel so it doesn't emit noise. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh man, there's some super weird things around radio that I've heard of just from like
Mm-hmm.
talking to people who do intenso electrical engineering. Um, you have this awesome video showing, well, just a moment ago, it was showing, yeah, your skates lighting up, and you also made these little skate earrings. So I feel like this is
Yeah.
something that if anyone's interested in skating, they should absolutely follow you because like skating and electronics together. Do you have any other skate related projects lined up?
I want to put more sensors on my body. This is the
Mm.
skate PCB. It's tiny.
Ah, what kind of
um,
sensors?
um, accelerometers. I want to put muscle sensors on my legs and see what muscles I'm actually using. Because like random things start hurting when I'm doing tricks, and I want to see like what I'm actually using.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe you could bring that to like a doctor and be like, "Hey, how do I keep myself from screwing up this
Yeah,
this particular muscle?"
yeah, it might be actually cool for like injury prevention too. Just
Mm.
seeing how like if you're overusing something.
What's your personality like when you're skating? Are you like, "I'm gonna push through no matter what," or are you like, "I should probably back off," or does it vary based on the day? Like how, I guess there's like daredevil mode and also like self-care mode.
Yeah, yeah, there are definitely times where I've pushed myself and I shouldn't. But when I'm learning a trick, I think that's my favorite part when I'm trying to figure something out because I break it down into steps, just like anything else, like making or engineering, I guess. I didn't just learn to drop in. I learned how to just stand on the side of the wall and see how it feels, and then just like go down on my toe stops and like move up and down. So breaking that into steps and like taking it one step at a time and building it up, that was helpful.
Feels like a great metaphor for electronics or any other hobby,
Yeah.
really. Are there other hobbies that you've brought into your electronics practice or interests?
Um, I think photography in a weird way because
Ooh.
I did make a wand once, like the persistence of vision wand, which was a fun thing for to experiment with long exposure photography. But also
Ooh.
like, yeah, those are so pretty. That's so fun. But I think I
Is
was
that
observing more things. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Everyone thinks that's it's a full day, but it's those are LEDs.
legit?
But I think I started observing things or paying attention to more things when I was doing photography, especially like doing macro photography of flowers and stuff.
Mm.
And I tried to bring that into some of my artistic PCB design, just adding some details and making it more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, like the lilies, the shading on the flowers, just observing.
Yeah. Have you thought about creating a PCB with the chip on it itself? So, like, for example, this one is controlled by, it looks like
Mhm.
a Circuit Playground or Circuit Playground Blue Fruit? One of those?
Yeah, that's the preferred. But yeah, I actually do want to revise this PCB and put a microcontroller on it. Probably a Raspberry Pi, the IP2040.
Mm, yeah. What draws you to that one?
Just because I think it's more beginner friendly. I like using STM a lot for my other projects. I don't know if you've used STM32 before.
Yeah, I haven't worked with them a lot myself, but I hear good things.
Yeah, I like those a lot, but it does have like a little bit of a curve if you're a beginner. And
Mm.
since I'm making a lot of these things geared towards beginners, I think the IP2040 might be a little more plug and play.
Yeah, they have all these great resources as well, like official Raspberry Pi resources for like
Mhm.
minimal design with the RP2040 and stuff like that, uh, and all this good stuff. I've personally used the at Tiny85 as like a first step from Arduino to boards. But if you're already working in like, well, if you're working with the Adafruit boards, maybe like CircuitPython.
Yeah.
then this
Yeah, I
makes
think
total
that
sense.
that one's yeah. And one thing like teaching workshops, electronics workshops, I've realized working with the Arduino IDE, if someone's learning for the first time, it's a little more intimidating than
Mm.
Circuit Python because it's more plug and play.
Oh, legit.
Yeah.
I wish that sometimes I wish that I were, like, starting over again and I could, try that out first because, like, not having to stick to a specific IDE, and I feel like CircuitPython and MicroPython really translate over to, like, regular software programming more, which a lot of
Mhm,
our members are people who are coming from, like, a software background,
mhm.
and so that is very familiar to them. If you were starting over again learning, what do you think that you would tell yourself in that situation, or if you knew someone who's embarking on electronics right now for the first time?
Like how I would start learning, or like just general wise advice.
Ooh, both, I guess.
I guess just building stuff is something I would definitely tell people to do because you learn things while you're building, and reading data sheets helps a lot, which I've found. If I would have read a data sheet for 10 minutes for a part versus just jumping into something, I feel like I would have saved myself more time if I just like put the effort into understanding the data sheet. So yeah, data sheet and just building. But I guess general advice would be to be more patient, and it's fine if you don't know stuff, you'll figure it out.
What about documentation? We're a documentation site at our core,
Mhm.
sharing tutorials and stuff, and in the course of you said that this is something that you're trying to do more of. So what are
Mhm.
you working on right now to sort of enhance your documentation experience?
I'm using Hackster to begin with. But also a Git, I'm just trying to clean up all my circuits so they look a little nicer and not as chaotic as my head is. So it's on Git. So it's also available. I'm making the Gerbers available if anyone wants to download and
Ooh,
just order your own too.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got, these shared on GitHub, for example. You've got
Hmm.
some really, awesome schematics that you've shared for some of these. And then, like, look at this, actually putting together ah, so good.
Yeah, that's a
I
feature
don't
in
think
Artium
I've put
which I
together one of
love.
these. What, sorry?
Sorry, Artium has nice documentation, which is also a little bit why I'm afraid to move somewhere else.
Ah. Yeah, I've literally never put together one of those, data sheet type actually, I'm not even, one of these multi-page schematics, but,
Mhm.
it's something that I would love to pick up as a skill. Super cool.
Yeah, I'm happy to like show you.
Ah!
I'll have to learn KiCad too.
I'll have to hit you up for some tips, and I would love to swap KiCad tips as well. Let's
Yeah.
see. Any more questions from the audience? Feel free to drop them in there. But if you're down, maybe we'll do a quick lightning round because we're coming to the end of our segment here, and I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about because you've done a million things. This mentoring, I'd love to come back to as well. But for now, could you tell us what 3D printing material you've been working with so far?
I've just been using PLA so far. My uh, 3D printing skills are pretty minimum.
It's an
I haven't
excellent
done,
choice for
yeah.
people who care about the environment because it's biodegradable, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think you can reuse it, right? Like you can melt it again and it turns into the filament again, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you can totally remelt it and turn it back into filament or into other stuff.
Yeah.
We already talked about the first project you built, but what was the first PCB that you made?
Oh, first PCB was for work. It was like a motor controller. It was for a dishwasher, industrial restaurant style dishwasher. They were dispensing like the detergent, so it was a motor control for that.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
What about your best self-care tip? How do you manage your health and happiness? Mental health, physical health?
Skating.
Oh,
Like I have
yeah.
hobbies. That's definitely it. But I don't like, I'm not someone who skips on sleep. I get a lot of sleep. So I recharge pretty heavily on sleep.
Smart. I need to do more of that. while we were chatting about this session, I was like emailing you at like 2:30 in the morning, and it was not great. Oh my gosh, look at your skateboard. That's so
I
cool.
love that skateboard.
Okay. Do you have any pets? And if not, what would you get?
I don't have pets. I really want a dog.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so one thing actually, sorry, I remembered that I took
Mm.
from my making thing back into work was the adding things to my PCB. So when I worked for the robotics company, we had a bunch of office dogs, and all our office dogs had like full portraits on the boards that I added.
That's awesome. Oh, we're getting a little bit of lag here, unfortunately. But yeah, oh man, I love the idea of putting portraits of the office dogs on your boards. That is adorable. Hopefully we get Ayesha back in a moment, but we will in the meantime, there's a bunch of really cool stuff to look at on her Instagram as I've been showing you, but also be sure to check out her Hackster profile with these 3 projects that we've already been looking at, including full schematics and stuff. We've got close-up photos, get repos with design and Gerber files like she was talking about. Um, oh no! We'll make sure that we get Ayesha back as soon as possible. We are about at time, so I want to make sure that you'll know that you can check out her links in the description below. I'm going to be updating this after the fact with more of the things that we looked at. For example, the IY conductive filament thread that has like, it sounds like it has kind of an enamel on it, so I'm going to have to check that out. Textiles for play-based STEM experiences. This is so cool. I can't believe I hadn't thought about this before or heard of this before, you know? But yeah, it looks like you can maybe put this in a sewing machine even? Not sure. Then we have JLC PCB and All PCB, which are the PCB services that she's used. Tortuga AgTech, which is these robots. And then also Lightship RV, which is where Ayesha works right now on these awesome, like, collapsible, expandable RVs. And someday we're gonna have here we go. Someday we're gonna have a commune of people who live in electric RVs and have a shared electronics workshop that we take off the road. It's gonna be amazing.
That would be really cool.
Yes. I'm glad you joined us again. So we're about at time, so we're not going to drain the rest of your battery. This has been such a joy. And is there anything that you'd love to throw in there before we wrap up here?
Um, I don't know. I guess like I'm gonna be better about documentation, but I really hope anyone who's listening who wants to try electronics and build PCBs, I think that would be cool for you all to try. And re- I'll be happy to give tips, show how I learned stuff.
Yeah, you're amazing at sharing and such an just
Yeah.
you're inspiring straight off, but then also like the amount of sharing that you do to sort of pass that on to the people is amazing. And you're doing that with the mentorship, which you'll just have to come on again another time and we'll ask you about the mentorship because there's so much that we can dive into there. But yeah, really quick running back through your links. We've got your Instagram, Hackster profile, GitHub for Sparkletronics. I'm gonna go follow them afterwards on Instructables, LinkedIn. It sounds like you're doing some pretty cool stuff already, but I'm sure that any team would be lucky to have you. And
Mhm.
yeah, just stick around and for lots of cool skating videos and tech across like princesses, skating, Pikachu, Pokemon, and then like really intense, awesome electrical engineering projects. I just love that you've got all the aspects nailed. Like you're doing the gorgeous aesthetic PCBs and at the same time the like hardcore EE stuff, which I just really admire. You're such a
Thank you.
broad expert, and I think that's really cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, so sweet. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining in the comments and stuff. This has been really fun just to see everyone chiming in. You have a lot of friends and fans from Instagram and beyond. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again, Ayesha. We'll see you soon and hack on.